Eddie, great to see you again. And I can only thank you for helping me experience a lot of lessons in the film industry. I've really learnt a lot from you. But can you just tell us, so you're a supervising sound editor, can you tell us what that involves?
Absolutely, and it's lovely to talk to you again, Paul. It's been far too long.
Yes.
Um, a supervising sound editor is the coordinator and organizer of a post production sound team. By post production, it's very self explanatory, but it's when the film's been shot, and sometimes before it's been finished, they bring on a supervisor such as myself, and really, it's the coordination of all the sound aspects. A, what's been recorded, talking to the composer, talking to the director, talking to the editor about how they want the sound to end up being in the cinema. And that's basically, I try to explain this to everybody, and it's saying, we don't have the orchestra playing alongside us. It's all done afterwards. Post production is exactly that. We post produce the sound. Um, my thought on that is very much when I started, I suddenly found out what I could do was to read a script and hear the sound for the final result. Um, it's that sounds fairly obvious, but it isn't obvious. The hardest part is reading and hearing at the same time. And it's literally as that you got to open your eyes, open your ears, open everything to what you feel is going to improve the storytelling for the director. A lot of directors have no idea what it's going to sound like in the end. Some, very few I found, were able to do that and say what I want is so and so and so and so. But I remember Neil Jordan saying, and I did 5 films with him. When I asked him the question, which was, "Have you got any thoughts on sound, Neil?" and he would say, "Do you do what you normally do? Because that seems to work out fine." And that is because I researched it. When I did um, a Coal Mountain 20 years ago, I researched really hard what bird sounds there were in in the Carolinas in during the Civil War, and I found out there were some which are now extinct, so I had to make them up. But then, as no one else had the recording of them, it didn't matter. But but they had a certain dove, and that had a particular sound. And I read descriptions of it, and I made it up.
Okay.
I got a sound that was very similar. A very small example, but it's not just when you look at something, you're saying, oh, yeah, there's a car, I'll put a car in. Or there's a particular bus, I'll put in a particular bus. It's thinking the long term of what you want. Is if you're gonna stick in a bus, you've also got to think where that bus is going to be. If it's on gravel, you've got to get it right,
Yeah.
and a lot of people don't. Anyway, what does a sound editor do? Well, that's the start of it, is to think in advance of what you think it should be. And then you talk to the director or the editor or whoever, and you try to put it in your mind. You try to put it all together, putting all the strategy together. Then the next thing you would probably do is to listen to the dialogue that's recorded and see if you can use it. It might be that the director's not happy with the way that the actor has recorded his voice. Not the quality, but although that will come into it, but it's whether you've got the performance that is needed, and that's where we come in, Paul. We have to make a judgment call on a if it's the quality is good, is clean, and b whether or not it's the performance that tells the story.
Right.
The director wants you to tell his story. He might not know that, but that's what he wants from you, because as often as not, he won't get it right.
Right.
Um, and that's rather sad. I mean, I've worked with a lot of directors who had no concept whatsoever of how they wanted the sound to end on a film, um, which makes life very difficult. because you have to convince them that what you've done is what they want.
Yeah. And then I suppose it's a question of measuring and balancing, say, like the music against the effects, against the dialogue.
Absolutely, and the arguments I've had with composers who have produced a full score, like John Williams,
Yeah.
and there's a reason why his. I only found it out relatively recently is why John Williams' score starts first frame and finishes on last, and it's because he always scores his music long before the fine cut. So it's probably 30% longer when he does it. So he'll score that, and then his editors have to come in and reduce the music to fit the film.
Yeah.
But they want to do all his work for him. I've met them all, and and they're lovely people. But what they're trying to support their composer, and if he's scored for 3 hours and the film comes down to 2, are they going to take a third of the music out? No, they're not. They're going to do the best they can for him. And if that means, and he's very rarely there at the mix.
Right.
Only once have I been with him at a mix, and other composers too. And they come in, oh, I've done a really great score for that. And you say, well, yes, it is, it's beautiful, but you're taking away from the film, not adding to it by making it maybe too emotional, too violent, too whatever. That's what they're doing, and it isn't always right for the film. But that's a hard job to get that one through to the composer and the director, because the director has chosen a composer for what he adds to it. And as the composer is written for the whole film, he's going to want to put that in.
And again, Ed, it comes down to what we were talking about before. The most important thing in business is interpersonal behavior. So it's how you relate to the director, how you relate to the composer, and you're trying to do the best by both.
Well, absolutely. I'm not going to mention any names, but there's a particular sound editor who you've worked with who lost a lot of work because he would argue with the composer. The composer is the best friend of the director. And so the director's never going to ask for this sound editor again because he trusts his composer.
Sure. And
that's I'll interrupt you just to say that we, in our own way, have to be far more clever than the composer, because they're doing one area of the film. We're doing them all.
Yeah.
And we include the music in that. Whether the director wants us to, whether the composer wants us to, is irrelevant. We have to consider it, that it is as important, the music, as the dialogue, as the effects, atmospheres, and so on. I mean, we all have to work together, but composers tend not to.
Right, yeah. The more introverted, yeah.
Which makes it very difficult.
Yeah, and I suppose often in a dramatic piece in the film, you may have the music clashing with a certain effects.
Well, absolutely. Because they never say, like, if you have a church bell and it is discordant, you can't have the two together. And if you repitch the bell, it never sounds right. So we might have to lose our bell, even though it's correct, because you want to tell the time or whatever. So it's weighing it all up as to what is important at the time.
Right. And so, and also, I imagine you have the restraints from the producer, be it budget, time. All of these are considerations.
Yeah.
For your mix.
They're all important, and if you can be lucky and you work on a Bond film, then you can spend the money because they have it in the budget.
Yeah.
But a lot of films that are that have smaller budgets, then you come up against the producer and saying, "Oh, we can't afford to record atmospheres or effects and so on." So you got to make it work.
Yeah.
You have to beg, borrow, and steal from other sound editors who worked on certain films. You've got to know what they've done. So IMDb is very important on that to see who's worked on a film like so and so, or you've seen a film and you know what the effects are like there as to whether they let you have them, or they're in a library, or where in a library they're from, so you can nick them from there.
Yeah,
and we've all done it.
Yeah.
We all have. Yeah.
share the effects. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Producer. Just to say about producers, one of the major problems with producers is that they're like we talk about policemen or doctors. They're all about 12 years old,
Yeah.
and they don't have any knowledge of what we do.
Yeah.
And anyone who's listening to this who's a producer, just think about what I'm talking about because it's so important. It really is.
Great. And what advice, Ed, say somebody, one of the youngsters, students,
Oh,
wants to get into, hopefully, as far as sound supervision, but where do you start?
It's a very good question, and I wish I could answer it succinctly. Um, I started like an apprentice, and I'm sure you did
Yeah.
too. I mean, you had to work. You had to work your way up. But when someone's been to university for 3 years, 4 years, or whatever, they don't want to start as a trainee second assistant picture editor. They do not want to do that
Yeah.
because and if they go to like the National Film School, that they want to go straight away and become a supervisor. But then they've never done it before. They've
Yeah.
done a short film. How could they possibly get the experience that is needed? So experience comes from, and I'm ashamed that this is the only way that I can think of it, is that you get a job working in a post production place, a Delaney kind of place.
Mm.
All Goldcrest used to be there. You can get taken on,
Yeah.
and you make tea. You do whatever people ask you. You never come late. You always
Yeah.
get there before you're supposed to be. You become the keenest person in the business, and
Yeah.
that's incredibly important. Um, I remember Richard Fordham, who was a brilliant assistant for me for many years, and I told him right from the start. I mean, and the most important thing was you have to learn to make good tea. I know you're laughing, but there's a lot of truth in it because I did have an assistant who made the most awful tea, and he put me off. It really did. I mean, he still worked for me for about 15 years, but it was in my mind. Um, you you have to be there before the editor comes in.
Yes.
I mean, in the old days, they had to sharpen our pencils when we
Oh,
used
yeah, the
it to
China
mark
gloves.
up the film.
Great. Yeah.
Of course, you don't have to now, but they've still got to do all the backing up and so on and so forth. And I don't know how you learn that other
Yeah.
than by experience. But the experience comes through from working alongside someone and seeing how they do it.
Yeah. It's like, working on the coalface. Well, you could study for it, but till you're
Yeah,
on the coalface doing it, you haven't learned how to do it.
absolutely right. Yeah, that's a very good analogy. I like that. Yeah,
Hmm.
although we never got quite as dirty as working in the coalface.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, long hours though. Yeah.
All right, Eddie. It was fantastic to talk to you again. Thank you so much. I'm
You're
sure you
welcome.
really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you.